Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with the wonderful new PRS SC NF53. You may have seen my recent unboxing video in which I demoed and reviewed this guitar. And during that video, I promised to do a big sound shootout with it. In that video, I compared it to a traditional Telecaster with VMod 2 pickups. I thought it was a very interesting test, showed just how differently it sounded from a traditional Tele. But this video will be something different. Because if you watch my channel, you know I have an army of Telecaster style guitars, and I tend to prefer hotter Telecasters in terms of the pickups, which is what this is. A Tele-inspired guitar with hotter pickups. Different enough to not call it a Telecaster, but it is definitely in the family. So today, we will be comparing it with G&L Jumbo Magnetic Field Design pickups, G&L regular size magnetic field design pickups, a Seymour Duncan Telecaster Hot Lead and Vintage Stack set, a Telecaster with a Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates humbucker, and a Seymour Duncan 59 humbucker in the neck. After all, these are humbuckers. Joe Barden Danny Gatton pickups, which I think are a great comparison because those are dual rail pickups. And my beloved, highly modified black Telecaster with a Seymour Duncan hot rails in the bridge and a Seymour Duncan Broadcaster bridge pickup in the neck. So a wide variety of sounds. What I'm going to do is for each sound comparison, do one sound sample for each pickup position, bridge, middle, and neck against the NF53 only. Because if you're watching this video, you will probably be watching it for the NF53's comparison in all this specifically. So you will also be, I'm not going to use the same style sound for everything. So you'll get a wide variety of sounds from the NF53 itself. Some are going to be amps, some are going to be Sims into Logic, but we're going to start out with what I've said many times might be my favorite sounding guitar, my G&L Tribute, the overseas, more affordable version, with the Jumbo Magnetic Field Design pickups. These are roughly Jazzmaster size pickups, not exactly. They are ceramic magnets, shallow but very wide. It's just a great, fatter, traditional single coil sound. And I'm very interested to see how it sounds next to the NF53. I'm going to be going through a Behringer Tube Screamer copy, settings on the screen now, and a Vox AC10. So with no further ado, let's get started. for our next contender, it was arguably my nicest guitar, my Fullerton Deluxe GNL ASAT Classic with the traditional Telecaster size magnetic field design pickups. Basically the same principle as the jumbo MFDs, but in a regular Telecaster size. Actually, the jumbos came first and were designed by Leo Fender himself. I believe these came along after he died, but they're great pickups. For this one, we are going to be going into the JHS color box, into the audio interface, into Logic through a cranked box AC10, rather AC30, I should say, amp sim. You will see these settings on the screen during the sound samples. So let's see what these can do. Okay, now we're going to maybe the comparison I'm most looking forward to because they're very similar in design. These are the Joe Barden JBE Danny Gatton pickups. You can see they are dual blade, single coil sized humbuckers, but these are meant to sound like a traditional Telecaster, whereas these are not. But they are both hum canceling. Operate generally under the same principle. As you can tell by the man behind me there, I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan, and he uses exclusively these pickups these days since he retired his main guitar, which you see in that picture from Born to Run, from live work. he uses these exclusively in all the mini Telecasters he plays live. So I'm very interested to see how these two stack up. I'll be going back to the Vox AC10, mic'd with an SM57. Settings on the screen again, through the Behringer Tube Screamer copy. Settings on the screen. I will say in advance, you might hear a little bit of a buzz with this guitar. That is not 60 cycle hum. I apologize for that. I had forgotten this guitar has a little bit of a grounding issue at the moment. Probably a loose wire or something. I need to sort out, but don't want to hold up this video to do that. So it's not horrible, but I want you to know that is not 60 cycle hum. That is a grounding issue I need to fix. But that being said, let's see how they stack up. Okay, here's another comparison I'm very eager for. This is a Partscaster with a Fender ash body and a Fender maple neck. Has a Seymour Duncan hot lead, traditional single coil bridge pickup, and a Seymour Duncan vintage stack noiseless neck pickup. So the bridge is not noiseless, the neck is, but this is a pretty typical Seymour Duncan set. Because of the sentimentality I have for the black Telecaster. This very well might be the guitar if I had to play a gig with a Fate of the World on the line that I would go to, because it's also not quite as old and a little better shape. So I absolutely love this guitar. This bridge pickup is one of my absolute favorite sounds, right up there with the black Telecaster and the ASAT Special. So I'm very eager to see how these two are going to stack up. So for this one, we're going back into the JHS color box, into the audio interface, into Logic with a Marshall JTM 45 amp sim. So I think this will be a great comparison. Let's see how they stack up. Okay, this one is a bit of a wild card, and originally I wasn't going to do it, but I thought it's sitting here, why not? This is the Fender Flame Maple Top Custom Special Edition. As you can see, it has full-size humbuckers. This is actually the set neck guitar. Everything else has been bolt-on like the NF53 and traditional tellies. Mahogany body, thin mahogany body, and a flame maple top, mahogany neck, rosewood fretboard. This is a much more modern take on a Telecaster. If you saw my NF53 video, in fact, even I know this is very inexact, but you can almost tell in the camera. This is a very thick neck for a Telecaster. This is an extremely thin neck. I tend to favor this neck shape better myself, but I am warming up to the NF53 the more I play it. But this isn't about that. This is about sounds. So this is a Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates in the bridge and a Seymour Duncan 59 in the neck, PAF style pickups. I'll be very interested to see how these sort of unconventional humbuckers go against some of the most traditional humbuckers you can find. With these sound samples going a little bit higher gain, going into the JHS Angry Charlie, settings on the screen now, and the Vox AC10 settings on the screen. So let's rock a little bit harder on this one. The final boss, so to speak, my main guitar, a 1992 standard Telecaster with a Seymour Duncan hot rails in the bridge and a Seymour Duncan broadcaster bridge pickup in the neck position. So I'm going to be running these through a Boss SD1, a JHS 3 Series reverb, and my Fender Bassman amp. So let's see how they compare. Okay, we are back. Final thoughts. This is a fantastic sounding guitar. Of course, I love the way all these guitars sound. I kind of say a similar thing to what Lee Anderson says in their videos, because when people accuse them of being too positive, because he says, I'm ordering this stuff to sell, I would not order it for the store if I didn't like it. He obviously wants people to buy everything, but he wouldn't order it if he didn't think it was good. So sort of a similar thing from the other side here. I would not own all these guitars with all these different pickups in them if I did not like the way they sounded. So I like all these sounds, and I really like the way this sounds. I didn't get too much into the construction of these guitars. I think you can tell when I've held them up during these little intros to each set of sound samples, how they differ in construction. That does play a small role, but I'm of the opinion that the pickups are the vast 75-80% of the sound, in my opinion. And I think overall it was sort of a little bit more on the hotter, fatter end of the spectrum, but not all the way on the humbucker end. Personal taste for me, it falls in probably about the middle, I would say, for my own 100% personal preference. That's why I did not go through and tell you what I thought of every single one after, because you have your own ears. You can hear and make your own decisions. I tried to make these sound samples as fair as possible so you could get a good idea of how it sounds. Because again, if you're watching this video, you're either just curious in general about the NF53 or curious about buying it. And again, I have this army of Telecasters, might as well put it to good use. But it definitely can twang, and it's not super heavy, super thick like a traditional humbucker, but it definitely has less twang than a regular Telecaster, which of course did not appear in this video because it was in the last one. And as one of the commenters said, and I agree 100%, the traditional Tele sounded a little bit, I hate to say thin and weak, but thin and weak, all things being equal, of course. I would probably want to boost the volume and gain on the traditional Tele a little bit. So it's not a 100% real world application, but all things being equal, this is definitely fatter and thicker, which is the sound I prefer. I will also note something that a commenter on that video pointed out, who owned the American version of this and made some good observations. Of course, that's been out a lot longer. Because I had noted this as well. About a little more than a year ago, I did a video on the NF3, which is the Strat style guitar that has these same pickups. And I did really like the way it sounded, but I thought it was a little bit on the thin side. Actually, for my personal preference, I like the neck better on that guitar, but thought the pickups, these same pickups, were a little bit thin. And I wasn't quite sure at first what the reason for that was, but then I remembered when I was playing that guitar, it had a set of 9 to 42 gauge strings. This is 10 to 46. I think that makes a noticeable difference with these pickups. And by the way, all the guitars you saw in this video have 10 to 46 gauge strings on them, so that was fair. It also kind of reminds me something, if you've seen my standalone videos about the Joe Barden pickups. I've never experienced pickups that respond more in output and tone to pickup height than those Joe Bardens. I think maybe a similar thing, and I admittedly have not messed around with the height on these yet because I like them where they are, but with the string gauges on this, I think it really makes a difference having slightly heavier strings. Again, I'm not saying 12 to 52 or whatever, just a regular 10 to 46. And with this specific guitar, I think sounds noticeably better with these specific pickups, I should say, than 9 to 42, in my opinion. Of course, all of this is subjective, and again, that's why I'm not getting too much into my personal thoughts. I will say, compared to the Joe Bardens, as about a direct trade-off to my ear, the Joe Bardens have a little more bite and twang, and in equal measure, these are just a little bit fatter and fuller. So it's really what you're looking for. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Ever since the USA version of this guitar came out, people have compared it, obviously, to a Telecaster. Is it a Telecaster style guitar, a competitor or not? I think it's definitely a competitor for a Telecaster, both in sound, look, and overall vibe. It is definitely not a direct replacement for a very traditional Telecaster. But for a rock person like me, not really a country person who's looking for a little fatter and heavier sounds, this might out of the box be what you're looking for. But again, you can decide for yourself based on the sounds. Please let me know what you thought below. Please leave any questions you might have. And please like and subscribe. I look forward to posting more videos with this great guitar. And let me say too, just really briefly, I feel a bit decadent owning all these different guitars, especially as I pull them out for something like this, but they really do sound different. And making my own recordings is my favorite thing to do musically, is to write and record my own songs. And it really does make a difference having all these different sounds and guitars at my disposal, because sometimes it really is as simple as reaching for a different guitar and something that wasn't working at all suddenly works, like with this guitar. Just not to go too far in a tangent, my very first album, when I was still learning how to record and things like that, there was a song called Forever Is Yesterday with a solo at the end. I was wanting to play a Les Paul I had at the time on it, and it just didn't sound right. I got my PRS S2 standard 24, didn't sound right. Didn't change a thing, pulled out this guitar, and it was perfect for what I was going for. So all that to say that sometimes videos like this and demonstrations like this really can help you find that very specific thing you might be looking for a certain sound or a certain gig or recording or whatever it might be, or just sitting in your bedroom. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope to see you next time with more content with this and some of these other guitars. And until next time, keep on rocking.